Hey everybody, this is Dust for Dusted on Gaming with episode 4, match number 2 of Burn here in Modern with our different series inspired by Nikachu MTG. Just a friendly reminder, if you like what you're seeing on the channel, please consider giving us a follow, a subscribe, a thumbs up, and a comment down below. So this particular list is won by Mike J. Flores, noted Burn aficionado and long time Magic writer and content producer, lover of all things Burn. His list he played at a PTQ at one of the side events of one of the Grand Prix recently. It is a Rakdos list, much like the stuff that's been going around. His sideboard's a little bit unique, we'll get into that here in a minute, but basically, your usual Skewer the Critics, light up the stage, low to the ground, bump in the night, Rakdos list. No white cards here, 4 Swift Spear, 4 Goblin Guide, 2 Grim Lavamancer, 4 Eidolon, 3 Searing Blazes, so a lot of respect to creature decks with these 2 Grims and the 3 Searing Blazes in the main. Bump in the Night lowers the curve between this and light up the stage, and Skewer the Critics, the deck's basically all but 11 spells are 1-drops. Riftbolt, well no, actually all but 7 spells are basically 1 mana spells in some form or other. Sideboard, Fatal Pushes and Searing Blazes for the creature matchups, Thoughtseize and Collective Brutality for the spell-based matchups. Brutality doubles as kind of incidental burn hate, Thoughtseize can disrupt combo and control. No Graveyard Hate is my only kind of really question mark here, but beyond that, deck seems pretty solid. We played an interesting match 1 against Storm, so let's hop into match number 2. Lots of Burn love going around right now on the internet. It's definitely one of the decks in vogue right now with the banning of KCI and the new spells floating around. Something just a friendly reminder, Dredge is still out there. It's still a rough matchup. Doesn't matter what form of Burn you have. We got lucky last time out with Rakdos to beat Burn without, or beat Dredge without any Graveyard Hate. But you probably want to make sure you have some form of Graveyard Hate in your deck. Squirrel Wrangler. Alright, that's an interesting name. So, some type of rock deck, perhaps? Death Shadow, maybe? Nope. Looks like rock or probably lose one of the Swift Spears here, I'd guess. Yep. And we drew a land off the top of our deck. Not exactly what you want to do when you already have 3 lands in hand, but sometimes that's what happens, even in an 18-land version of the deck. The odds they have Fatal Push. Opponent with all the interaction. Hopefully this Grim Lavamancer will live. But we are kind of in a rough spot here. Liliana. This is why in the last versions of basically spells you can't yank. Just pitch this mountain here. Tarmogoyf. So what realistically gives me the best chance of winning this game? If I play Eidolon and they edict it, then Tarmogoyf grows another size. So my best bet, just like empty out my hand and hope to rip 3 burn spells? Is that the situation we find ourselves in here? Could have Fatal Push here, so creatures are not obviously the best method here. And not to mention that, if I get rid of this, put this Eidolon into play, then there's also the off chance that they Edict and Liliana and their Tarmogoyf actually becomes a 6/7. So I think we just let the Eidolon go here. And hope to rip like 3 burn spells in a row. Which, while it's not an ideal situation, at least gives us some hope and prayer here. Yeah, another Tarmogoyf makes that extremely unlikely. Yep, that means we're just mathematically dead here. So I think our switch is just 3 blazes for 3 pushes. Thoughtseize and Brutality don't really accomplish anything. We're not trying to play an attrition game against them. So, I mean, this is a hand, I guess. Got plenty of fuel if we find another land. And if they discard spells, they'll probably take Light Up the Stage here, which is our best way to kind of crawl out of this one lander. Anyways, Black-Green Rock's probably one of... Okay, Fatal Push, sure. Has been one of Burns' rougher matchups of late, at least before the Skewer the Critics whatnot build. So we'll grow Goyf up to a 4/5. So let's cast Light Up the Stage here. See 2 land drops. Let's continue to unload on our opponent here. I think Light Up the Stage gives us a little bit better play in the matchup, but it's still not like a great matchup, I don't think. Yep, Skews. There's 1 creature in the graveyard, so that doesn't really change the math on things. However, a 2-turn clock, drawing way too many lands. We go from a 1-lander to 5 lands, kind of frustrating. So if I bolt this, so we're on a 3-turn clock with just Goyf. Skews itself means we'd only have 1 more draw step, so I guess I have to bolt Skews. And we gotta hope they damage themselves somewhere in this mess, too. Sure. Alright, now we mathematically can't kill them before they kill us. So, yep, that would only put them to 1. We wouldn't even get this bump in the night draw step, so sometimes you just flit out and die against a matchup that is a little bit rough just because of the nature of how their pressure is and whatnot. So anyways, what I was saying, the point I didn't complete before was, before Light Up the Stage and Skewer the Critics were coming into the format, whenever I was testing a lot of Burn, and Burn had actually gotten significantly worse in the format because of Dredge's uptick, and we were testing various ways to get around things. I'd actually included a couple copies of Direfleet Daredevil in the sideboard to be a 2-for-1. Grab a Fatal Push, grab a Collective Brutality, something like that out of the graveyard against some of these mid-range grindy decks, especially Black-Green Rock was a real nightmare in a lot of scenarios. It was one of our overall worst performing matchups of all the matchups we played. I think it, along with Dredge, were like the two matchups we saw a lot of that just weren't great. So I was trying to find different ways to kind of tweak the matchup a little bit, and Direfleet Daredevil was a card I started to experiment with, and it actually had some promising results. But obviously things have shifted, and Skewer the Critics and Light Up Stage kind of have snuck into the format. So those are awesome cards, but still looks like Black-Green Rock's a little bit of a rough matchup. So that was match 2 of episode 4. This has been Dusk for Dusted on Gaming. Hope everyone's having a great day out there.